This is what you might consider a revisit of my Holmes Platinum stand fan that I've already done a video on this fan some years back. Bought this fan in the summer of 2002. So this fan is actually going on 23 years old, and it's closing in on the age of being antique. However you interpret the word antique, and for the most part, this fan still runs good. Still spins up to speed, still puts out a good breeze. And this was one of the first fans I bought for myself whenever I moved into this home and bought this at Lowe's for $40. And nowadays, with inflation, these fans similar to this can run up to $80, $100, something like that. I know Lowe's is carrying a Utilitech, retro looking fan right now, and this fan differs for other fans. Well, like my Hunter there, like the Hunter and my other similar fans come with a 3-prong cord. This just comes with a typical true 2-prong cord, and on this fan, you got a metal grill, a metal blade. The stand is metal. However, the housing is plastic. And you got your knob right there, on, off, speed selector. And the oscillator button is kind of in the form of like an ingot, kind of oblong, and looks kind of like an ingot. Well, the Hunter is 99% metal, including the motor housing. But I mean, this fan has a lot of metal, but the housing is all plastic. And I've seen, I know on videos, tutorials about oiling, fans in like the newer realm, and whenever you oil a fan, you definitely don't want to oil a fan exactly how I oil my fans years ago, which is squirt oil, in the motor, make sure it goes between the stator and the windings, and that's the wrong way to do it. You really got to oil at the shafts, not at the stator. And improper oiling caused, some damage to the plastic components to a few other fans. So now, after watching, all these tutorials, I know the proper way to oil one of these fans. And fans in the newer realm, including this fan, you gotta they are not designed to be serviced. However, if you know what you're doing, you can still service them. But Servicing some of these fans is intricate, it being that they're not designed to be serviced in the first place. But if you're real mechanical and you have time on your hands, I mean, you can still service them and oil them. You just got to take apart the motor and oil them by the shafts, since, well, I mean, they don't have oil ports. I've been using my newer fans basically for the purposes I want to research how my newer fans compare to my older fans, and that's one of the reasons I've been using my newer fans. But I thought to myself, well, this Hunter, I meant Holmes, has always been a good fan, so I'll put it back in partial service. And last summer I used it in my bathroom to circulate air back there in conjunction with my big dining room ceiling fan. And I also kept it going with the bathroom door shut to keep circulation when I was giving mini baths. And one day, moving the fan around, when I grabbed it by the motor, the main housing structure came apart from the main motor plate there. I mean, it would fit back together, but if I were to pull up on it, I mean, the motor, the housing would be undone, and it would be lopsided up. And I thought to myself, it being that the housing is becoming undone, maybe that might give me an opportunity to service this fan. This fan was used whenever I didn't have air conditioning, and it was left going 24/7 a lot during the summer back in those years. And so factor in, this fan was going 24/7 a lot. So that's a herald that, well, must have a lot of dust build up in the motor. I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and service it, because got to be a lot of dust build up in the motor. And one day I went to pull up that motor housing, and the oscillator switch came out of its proper seating, and got worked under the housing. And I thought, well, further hands-on is needed. So I ended up taking this whole fan apart. And while the whole fan was apart, I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and try and oil the motor, which I did. But even though this is an older fan right here, it's not designed to be serviced. It was kind of a mess getting into it. This knob right here is totally integrated with the housing. The seating for it is totally integrated and totally bonded. So got fairly short wire, so it was a challenge getting to the motor, because the wire to the knob gave restrictions. I guess I could have separated the wires. I didn't want to take the chance, so I continued disassembling and I detached the oscillator knob and I mean, the entire fan was in pieces in my dining room, and the housing was laying on my, dining room table. And then, to make a long story short, I did get the motor apart. I did get the shafts oiled up, but then I went to put everything back together. I mean, the shafts seem to be spinning freely. And with the motor housing on my table, I decided to give it a test run. And the housing would spin for a minute and it would totally seize up. And I'm like, what in the shit is wrong? Seems like I conducted the proper methods I needed to. Why is it seizing up? So I decided to, dismantle it again and make sure it was put together right, and got the shaft spinning freely. And then I noticed when I was putting it together, the shaft seized up again. And I was getting frustrated. I was like, goodness, maybe I messed up a good fan. The fan's at the point of no return. I might as well just throw it out. Yes, I had the notion to dispose of this fan, but at the same time, I was determined to keep trying to save it. And after further investigation, what had happened is apparently somehow maybe I was struggling too hard or something. This is my first main experience with actually, dismantling a motor and servicing, and I think, the motor bolts got rounded off. The whole fittings got rounded off, and the reason it was seizing up is because the back motor plate was not staying flush. So when I was trying to put the fan back together, the plate would get angled up against the shaft and just cause it to seize up, and couldn't get it back together. The bolts were a strip. And then I thought, well, I'm going to keep trying to save this fan. And last night I went to Home Depot and I took one of the fan screws and I took it in the store and found one just a little bit longer. And I found nuts to attach to them. So, I was able to get the motor reassembled and got everything flush finally. And it's working, pretty much as well as it did before finally. It's winter time and I should be videoing my heaters. Maybe I'll get there one day, but I'm not using fans much, since it's winter time. But I thought, well, maybe provide, work to some of my fans, it being that I'm not using them much. I would like to mention that these tutorials on YouTube, this one, guy that I follow, his son restored a Lasco 3733, box fan, painted it green, and provides service to it by totally dismantling the motor, oiling the shafts. And I thought while I had this fan apart, I would go ahead and do that, but was not as easy as what it seemed because of the cluster inside the motor. Now let me show you this in operation. All right. Start off on low. This fan actually goes from high, medium to low, which is contrary to, the newer fans. Medium. I thought the air might be hitting against the microphone too hard, so I moved the camera over. Now high. I'm going to show this in oscillation on all 3 speeds. Okay, let's go down to medium. Okay, low. Okay, back to high in stationary mode. Okay, now spin down. Thank goodness I was able to save this fan, because for a while I didn't think I would be able to put it back together again, but with enough determination I finally did it.